Hello, this is Cho of the Shiny Colors Discord. Welcome to another episode of the Shiny Review. Today we have 3 cards we need to talk about. A new Produce SSR for Kaho, a new Support SSR for Yuika, and the Event SSR is Natsuha. Now keep in mind that Kaho and Yuika are limited. They will not be returning once this banner is over, so if you want them now, you have to pull before the banner ends in just a couple days actually. Didn't get the chance to record, had some life things come up, and was just kind of burnt out a little bit, but I took some days off and we're good to go. So, let's go ahead and get things started with Kaho. Takayama gives Hokura no rest this year, as Kaho 7 is now their 3rd Produce SSR since January, and also happens to be limited alongside Natsuha 7 and Rinzai 7. Believe me when I say that I feel for those trying to pull for teams. I thought I wasn't going to get her either, but here we are. Did manage to get her. Took a lot of gems though. Kaho is a pure dance unit and can be viewed as a retrain of Kaho 4. Instead of focusing on single target damage, Kaho 7 is a mixed attacker with both AoE and single target appeals together, as well as attention raising and a unique memory appeal. Said memory appeal is a whopping Dance 8.0 appeal scaling on high attention, but also lowers your attention by 200% before the link. This means that in order to cash out the damage, Kaho would need a combined 400% attention through passives and appeals to bypass the attention down. She is the strongest center for Dance Hokura, but at a cost. Also, one really notable thing is that her memory appeal, aside from the usual memory appeal scaling, does not gain any additional benefits after memory level 3. So if you wanted a somewhat easier to build center, Kaho actually has everything available with just a very slightly weaker base value at memory level 3. So, it is something to consider as well. Her passives are incredibly strong, her appeals are really good. She's incredibly powerful and can be one of Hokura's best centers by far. Her roles are Attack All, Attention Up, Attention Down, and Memory Gauge Boost, and I highly recommend pulling for Kaho. Kaho's initial skill is a Dance 2.0 appeal that also appeals a Dance 1.5 to all judges and raises your attention by 100% for 3 turns, which links into a Dance Maximum 2.5 appeal to all judges that scales based on how high your attention is. The max version of this skill is a Dance 3.0 appeal, followed up by a Dance 2.0 appeal to all judges, raises your attention by 100% for 3 turns, and links into the same Dance Maximum 2.5 appeal to all judges scaling on how high your attention is. Kaho's 1-star passive is a Dance 60% up that requires your turn count to be 3 or earlier, has a 30% chance to activate 3 times. Her 2-star passive is a Dance 80% up and Memory Gauge 10% up that requires your mental to be 74% or lower. This has a 30% chance to activate 3 times, and it also unlocks a Dance plus 50 uncap. Her 3-star uncap is a plus 150 to Dance, and her 4-star unlocks 2 things. The first is a passive, a Dance 120% buff as long as Kaho is in your skill history. This has a 20% chance to activate twice. This also unlocks a Dance Mental plus 100 uncap. Her memory appeal when maxed out is an attention 200% down for 3 turns, that links into a Dance Maximum 8.0 appeal scaling based on how high your attention is. So again, if you want to maximize this out, you would need to reach about 400% attention, combined from your appeals and your passives in order to mitigate that 200% attention down, in order to maximize out on that damage. For the support recommendations, nothing has had a whole lot of time to change for Hokura supports much, outside of Toru being probably the safest visual token for Grad now. This team is much less reliant on Daikichi's appeal, so she's great, but she's not mandatory, which is important. If you are somebody that likes the idea of Duet Hokura and happen to use Christmas Jury, you might also consider running Gyudon Rinzai in order to utilize her appeal to guarantee a turn 3 memory appeal if your passives can support it. Your backup supports have some flexibility. Kiriko and Mamimi enforce a lower health setup, while other supports like Meguru, Asahi, and Amana are generic enough to be used when you're missing other key pieces. So do what you can, but there's a lot of flexibility in that sense. For the team recommendation, Dance Hokura has once again changed their lineup, with this iteration focusing on what Duet Hokura was able to accomplish with a lot more oomph behind it. The way this plays out is by utilizing the appeals of Choco 6 and the support Christmas Jury. You'll be able to have at least 100% attention by turn 3, just looking at those 2 appeals. Many of the passives on Hokura cards, especially newer ones, have high attention raising effects. From there, you're asking for as many of your high 100% attention passives to activate in conjunction with Choco, ideally grabbing either Natsuha or Rinzai from her duet, depending on whether or not Rinzai had used the jury appeal. If all goes well, you should be able to hit close to 400% attention and have your link appeal ready by turn 3. The other approach to this that was brought up in the supports is to have Jury bring a Gyudon Rinzai appeal to set up an alternative path of Jury, who duets Rinzai, followed by Choco, who hopefully duets Natsuha, which allows Kaho to memory appeal on turn 3, and then Natsuha to use her AoE appeals if you need that turn 4 finisher. On to the grades. Kaho is a center, S+ to SS. This is by far one of the beefiest memory appeals in the game, held back by the innate debuff you have to take in order to use it. If you're able to consistently set up over 400% attention, then the debuff does not matter, and you just explode judges with an insane amount of dance. Because of how Hokura play, this debuff is also somewhat easy to work around, so it's certainly something to consider. And again, like earlier, this memory appeal really stops scaling after memory level 3. All it does is increase the base damage of the normal memory appeal, not the link appeal. So, you only miss out on a small amount of damage by going from memory level 5 to 3, but it makes it more easy for the average player to have a memory appeal that is ready to go for your Fest team. As a unit, SS-. Kaho is a very strong card that does a fair bit in Dance Hokura and in ways can help other dance teams operate a bit stronger too, if they can afford the space. While she doesn't generate nearly as much memory gauge as her first Dance Limited, her intention as a center makes this less apparent since you wouldn't be trying to use her appeals. She's no Natsuha 7, nuking judges whenever she wants, but she puts in all the effort to make Dance Hokura truly powerful. Next up we have Yuika. Making a return after a long while, we have a new Yuika support who has revived the concept of excellent supports. Since it's been a little bit, excellent supports have the unique distinction of being able to deal an equal amount of damage to any judge they target, thanks to balanced stats on the support card, and the ability of excellent to match attribute to the judge. That means if you were to appeal with Yuika to the vocal judge, it will be treated as a vocal appeal, and use her vocal stat to calculate damage. If it's the dance judge, it turns into a dance appeal, and uses her dance stat. Same goes for visual. She provides SP generation to all 3 rooms, mental gain for Antika setups, and has a comfy amount of stamina support, with some real nice passives for high mental teams. She's a good comfort card in Wing, and possibly very solid for Fest, though her passives could be seen as a little weak depending. She's built very Rainbow-like, and Rainbow hasn't been necessarily an amazing team outside of some Illuminate builds, so we'll just have to see how it pans out. She's also somewhat anti-meta, and we'll go into that in a second, so her value may or may not rise or fall depending on what happens with certain cards in the meta. Her support skills are Idol's Bond, Promise Recovery, Rest Boost, and Stamina Support, and she has 4 unique support skills. The first being Unit Mastery Mental, reaching +10 at level 70. Then we have Vocal Mastery SP, Dance Mastery SP, and Visual Mastery SP, reaching +12 at level 80. Her support appeal does scale, starting in an Excellent 3.0, becoming a 3.1 at level 60, working its way up to a 3.5 at level 80. Her TFD idea is Appeal, her Insight token for Grad is Dance, and her proficiency and landing point is in Mental. Yuika's 0-star appeal is an excellent 3.0 that ignores the judge's interest. Her 1-star passive is a Vocal Dance Visual 40% up that requires your maximum mental to be 3,000 or higher. This has a 20% chance to activate 3 times. This also unlocks a Vocal Dance Visual +50 uncapped. Her 2-star passive is a Vocal Dance Visual 100% up that requires your maximum mental to be 3,400 or higher, and your current mental to be below 49%. This has a 30% chance to activate once. Her 3-star uncap is a Vocal Dance Visual and Mental +50, and her 4-star appeals, as she has 1 for Vocal, Dance, and Visual each, is a 4.0 appeal that ignores the judge's interest, reduces your current mental by 30%, and grants you a buff upwards of 80% for 3 turns, with the effect increasing based on how much mental you are able to reduce. So in order for this to be fully realized, you have to lose over 1,000 health from that 30% cut, which is why her passives ask for 3,400 mental. A 30% reduction from 3,400 is just about what you need in order to hit that maximum buff. Now here I have written visual, but obviously that would be a vocal buff if you use the vocal appeal, dance for dance, and visual for visual. 4 stars also unlocks an additional vocal dance visual mental plus 50 uncapped. Yuika gets an S+. Yuika is the current developer take on anti-meta, with appeals that give you a more direct answer to Daikichi Kogane and her vice grip on the higher grade fest levels. The problem runs into that she doesn't have much room to get better with time. If something like Daikichi falls out of favor, then Yuika does as well. Her mental cut of 30% also doesn't put Antika online immediately, and really has to enforce the high mental builds, which might not be the most useful. Her ability to generate SP for your team is incredibly useful, however, and pairs up with recent Antika strategies of building higher total mental rather than risking it all on a card like Yuika 3. Definitely a really good comfort card, especially if you're just planning to build for produce modes for Wing. I moderately to highly recommend pulling for Yuika. Last but not least, we have Natsuha. This time the event SSR is Natsuha, a dance support who grants you more dance through her masteries, and is built like the 2018 SRs for Hokura, just a little bit weaker. I don't have too much to say on Natsuha other than that her story is very comfy, and the card art is nice and carries a lot of the atmosphere you'll be getting from the event's main story. A generally solid backup for dance teams, but not mandatory for those that already have Wei Natsuha, for example. Her support skills are Idol's Bond, Promise Recovery, Rest Boost, and Stamina support, and her unique support skill is Dance Mastery Dance, reaching +8 at level 75. Her TFD idea is Dance, her Insight token for Grad is Mental, and her proficiency and landing point is in Dance. Natsuha's 1-star passive is a Dance 18% up that requires you to be in the dance position. This has a 30% chance to activate once. Her 2-star passive is a Dance 35% up that requires the turn count to be 4 or earlier. This has a 30% chance to activate once. Her 3-star uncap is a Dance +50, and her 4-star appeal is a Dance 2.8 that raises your dance by 20% for 3 turns, and your attention by 20% for 3 turns. Her event passive is a Dance 20% up that requires Natsuha on your team, and it has a 40% chance to activate twice. Natsuha gets about a C+ to a B-. Natsuha really is just a couple percent away from being the original Hokura SR gacha supports. So if that's any indication of where things are going, maybe soon we can actively recommend event supports, as the SRs used to actually be really meta in the super early phases of Shiny Colors, so to be on par, or really close to being on par, with those supports is a nice change. Natsuha is perfectly fine. Her dance mastery is okay, and her passives are serviceable nowadays. Definitely not mandatory, but not the worst either, and you might as well farm for Natsuha while she's here. And that will do it for the video today. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. Next time we'll be talking about whatever banner comes next, so let's look forward to it together. I've been Sho, thanks for watching, have a wonderful rest of your day.